And so if you release what your ideal and what the world has told us is our center, our orgasmic perspective, then you get to experience it in a whole new fashion.
Hmm.
And you get to love on your body in a whole new way. You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. It's just like a fork and a spoon. Some people who utilize a fork and all of a sudden they don't have a fork. They can use chopsticks. They can use spoons for a different experience.
Yeah.
If you go to Philippines, they use a spoon as a knife. You have an opportunity to change things and still get a good desired outcome. You
Yeah.
just have to believe in the creativity that lives within inside of you and that can be experienced with your body.
I'm Cindy Darnell, and welcome to The Erotic Philosopher, the podcast where we examine and explore sex and relationships through social, cultural, political, and other lenses, and find some ways to explore some very diverse erotic quandaries. Today's guest is Nenna Joiner. Nenna is an adult store owner, more specifically the owner of Feelmore, which started out of the trunk of their car. Nenna now owns 2 adult shops in Oakland and Berkeley under the name Feelmore. Nenna's passionate about changing the way people see adult stores in their city by being part of the community and not just people's beds. Enjoy this conversation with Nenna Joiner. Nenna Joiner, welcome to The Erotic Philosopher. I really appreciate you taking time out of your extraordinarily busy schedule to come and talk about sex and pleasure and sex toys in particular, which is such a crucial and often overlooked part of sexual well-being and sexual happiness. So for people who, because this podcast goes out around the world and there are going to be some people who are very unfamiliar with you and your work, what would you like folks to know about you meeting you for the first time?
What should they know? 1, I'm Black, and 2, I'm queer, and 3, I run a sex shop.
Hey! So let's talk about how those 3 things meet for you that create passion and purpose in your life.
Well, those 3 things of being Black, queer, and a sex shop owner meet because I get ownership of my body, my experience. And so the opportunity as an African American based in Oakland, California, to own their idea, their body, their ideals around body is just like incredible. And being in business, you can say you own a business, but until you really own the land, it's really just, it's just owning the business.
Yeah.
But in the sex industry, in the adult industry, particularly, you help others to take ownership of their body experience. And that is the one thing that we do get an opportunity to truly own throughout and through in is our body. And for me, particularly being African American, owning my body and my experience is just something that many have started out from birth with that opportunity. And historically, it hadn't happened that way for people in my community.
Yeah. And the crucial element of being able, and tell me if I understand this accurately, being able to not only claim your body and reclaim your body, but to reclaim the erotic body. Because it's one thing to make food choices and to be able to take up space, and then taking up erotic space has a whole extra layer of taboo and kind of bullshit that we have to navigate through, right?
Yeah, I think the erotic is, Audre Lorde talked about the body erotic,
Yeah.
but I think with anything that we do, there's eroticism there. It depends on how you look at it. In that you have food choices, you have spiritual choices, you have body issue choices. All of those are rooted in love, which the body should be rooted in acceptance, where love lives. So I think it's all, even though it's layered, it brings out different traumas for us and how it exhibits or it comes or it's structured. But in all, the through line through all of those is basically love.
And so speaking to that notion of love, what is it that you see people struggle with the most around pairing up that concept of, uses of the erotic, to use the Audre Lorde reference, and then love? And, love can mean so many things. How do those 2 things match up for you?
I think that the love comes into accepting your choices and being confident in your choice that you have taken in that moment, and loving it thoroughly so that you can, I think when you love something, you can get its full, you can activate its full potential.
Yeah.
And if you don't love something, you're left with a percentage of love, but then a lot of doubt.
Mm.
And we want to get to a full total capacity of loving something, to accept it totally and to appreciate it in that moment. And I say in that moment, in that each moment can be different. For example, a trans woman or a trans person who's transitioning, they still call themselves trans, and then they decide where they're going to fit and what pronouns are they going to use, and they start to say, I'm a trans woman. And even in that pursuit of being whatever trans, I think that there's still a love for the trans experience. And then when they have settled in the moment as a trans woman, they are still accepting and fully in love with being a trans woman. So it's like you're taking the love place to place. You're taking the love place to be able to fully experience and accept and have confidence within that moment.
It's such a remarkable thing to be embodied and to feel that love and acceptance. And I know I have not always felt like that about myself, and I'm sure it's been complicated for you as well. What was the process that you went through to be able to bridge the space between those parts? How did it work out for you?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. In that I've always actually been here, but it's just on a different stage. We're always transitioning through life on how and where people see us. If you're looking at the young queer who is in elementary school deciding who they want to be versus that same queer who's able to run for office, a political office, they're the same person, just a different place and time. And for me, it's always been, it hasn't been the awakening and questioning. It was always the questioning. So the questioning of, what does it look like? What does my body mean to me? What does it mean for these things? And it wasn't that I was just looking for queer information. I was looking for confidence as I came across any information that I could actually take bits and pieces and sculpt what my manifesto is in my life, Yeah.
And so it's that process of peeling away layers and sculpting. I love that word, sculpting what your manifesto is. Do you notice that it changes over time?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The more you read people, the more you read into your life. To get to another level in life, you always have to surrender what we are doing right now to get to the next level. And right now I'm working on some surrendering for myself, which is only going to add to who I am as a business person, being a more authentic business person, I think, because of the type of work I'm doing. And just making sure that I continue to move to a level. And it's like pond water, if the water isn't able to move out, it becomes known, it becomes the levels of what's in that water is very well known, documented. Certain things can grow there. You can predict what grows in that type of water. And so what we're looking for in my life is a stream of water, a slow stream, so that we can get comfortable and we can also grow in that space, but also that we get an opportunity to just move out a little bit and explore. It's like, do you want it to be a rushing wave, or do you want it to be this flowing stream in Alaska, in the rivers nestled between the greenery and trout swimming in a different direction than the moose are walking? You know what I mean?
Wow, so there's an image.
What water do you want to be placed in? And I'm looking at a slow stream, not a rushing, because I don't get to experience and see everything that's around me, but that I get an opportunity to experience for time, even if it's in a time moment, what's happening in my body. what's happening around me.
Yeah.
Because if I rush so fast, then I'm changing with this pace that the world is setting for me, and I'm not able to take in and feed, to grow, to experience, and to know what's best for me in the next moment.
And that sits in so much contrast with how we think businesses are supposed to run. In particular, sexuality businesses, now that some of these, huge sites start selling toys at a reduced rate, trying to undercut small indie businesses like yours and other indie businesses around the world, that your ethos sounds like it really not only keeps you grounded in your business, but also gives you purpose and passion, because it's married to or blended so beautifully with what matters to you somatically, what matters to you in your body.
Yeah, because just because I'm selling sex toys doesn't mean I'm not a consumer of sorts.
Right.
Of course, I can't consume everything that we buy, but I'm also a consumer in that I want to make sure it values my money. I want to make sure that the company, I can see those same people all the time. The values of the company are going back into the community. What I do as a retailer, I actually, like this during the pandemic, I just had to thank the warehouse workers who were packing our boxes. I bought the whole warehouse food, lunch.
Yeah.
And the owner called and she was like, yo, like that was so dope, but I feel like just because I'm a small business and I don't have those warehouse and, the accounting team, I count the people who are calling me, telling me I'm late as my accounting team.
Right.
I count the people who are packing my boxes as my team and saying thank you. And I sincerely mean that, because I don't think as a small business, I can grow the mindset, the ideal off the charts with hiring people. It's not about just hiring people. It's about making sure that people who are there are invested.
Yeah.
And those who are invested, I see their investment and I see how I can leverage those relationships, not in a opportunistic, but also just in a synergistic perspective, in that this is already what their wheelhouse is.
Yeah.
And I'm just catching the flow of what's happening for them. And it's really great. And also the somatic part of what I do is also allowing me to not look at those who are in competition, other businesses as competition. Because if you start to look at the competition as a small business and you have this huge business, you're going to blow your mind and your money to catch up to what they're doing. Let's take it this way. A oak tree planted in its first year is the same as the oak tree planted in its 10th year. They're just different sizes, but they're still mighty. And so the small one still has to go through the same elements that the big one does. They both don't bend. They both don't break. They're both just growing to a certain size. And the big one doesn't just stay big in comparison to another tree. It probably is small in comparison to the redwoods here in California, And so it just takes time to get to stages in life. But those are slow growths. Those are, the rings of life. That's the slow flow in the water where you're saying, I can still get there. It just takes time.
Yeah.
And if you continue to watch what others are doing, I think you can also create a level of depression for yourself, not just as a person, but also as a business, to say it's not happening for me or it's not happening for us. And how am I going to make it? They're doing that. We're doing this. And so it's basically putting these soft blinders on so that you can love what you're doing for the true sake of love versus for regret, competition. Those things aren't rooted in love. And so we want to stay, if I can stay small and stay happy, like I'm happy and having a home and having a knife set, like there's nothing extravagant about where I live compared to some people. It may be my here, maybe someone's top, you know what I mean? So there's levels to certain things. So yeah.
And I mean, again, for your own metaphor, coming back to that notion of love, being able to, be kind to yourself and recognize that you are where you are. And it's not in competition to somebody else's process. It's in understanding your own process. I loved how you were talking about that intention to grow, to move towards growth. And I think so many people, especially when it comes to sex, can be afraid to change sexually.
Mm-hmm.
Because for a lot of folks, it takes them, however many months or years or whatever to reach some level of erotic knowledge, whether their quest is to have an orgasm or to embody a particular gender or to have sex with a particular person or whatever it is, that this quest can happen. And then they get the thing, whatever the thing is.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden that thing is either not what they thought it was going to be, or it's not fulfilling anymore. And then it's that pressure to change or pressure to stay the same. And so in hearing you say, that I'm looking for growth, I'm looking to change, I think it's beautiful. And I think it's something that folks really struggle with, especially when it comes to sex, because we don't want sex to change. We want it to be amazing, and we want nothing to change, which is such a paradox. So how, in any sense, in your personal life or your business life, however you want to answer this question, how do you invite yourself, and what advice would you give to people who struggle with that notion of wanting to step into growth and change, but not really wanting to step into growth and change?
Yeah, you have to be okay with the outcome. Yeah, I think if people could predict the outcome, they change more.
Say that again. If people
could predict the outcome, they would change more.
Yeah.
So they stay in their comfort zone.
Yeah.
But the intention is, you have to set your intention. The intention is to go into a situation with love, integrity, confidence, growth, a great experience, and then let the universe open up for you and to be exactly that, to experience something different. For example, if someone is using a vibrator, they used to have a lot of sex. Now their body isn't having any sex. Just having lubricant around is a slow growth.
Yeah, right.
Or having a small vibrator that is battery operated. So all you have to do is, it's really up to you to turn it on when it's time.
Yeah.
And also thinking about your sex as sexual health, like the exercising of your muscles, the exercising of your body. Just as you're wanting to change, you have to read people, read circumstances. If you want to change weight, you have to change your diet. You may have to work out. And also in sex, to keep open, especially for some women who atrophy after a certain period of time. If you're not using it, you're actually creating more of a barrier or pain sometimes to experience, intercourse. It doesn't mean just with a person, but just with things as well. And so you have an opportunity to just say, I'm going to go on the other side of this fear to experience my body to its fullest extent.
Yeah.
Because it's not just, and you have to think about it too, for men who have had prostate cancer,
exactly,
not able to experience erection or ejaculation in a certain perspective, but you get to still have pleasure.
Yeah.
And so if you release what your ideal and what the world has told us is our center, our orgasmic perspective, then you get to experience it in a whole new fashion. And you get to love on your body in a whole new way. You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. It's just like a fork and a spoon. Some people who utilize a fork and all of a sudden they don't have a fork. They can use chopsticks. They can use spoons for a different experience. Yeah. If you go to Philippines, they use a spoon as a knife. You have an opportunity to change things and still get a good desired outcome. You just have to believe in the creativity that lives within inside of you, and that can be experienced with your body.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so true at even different stages of life as our bodies change. And, if we live with illnesses, if we get older, if, we have a partner who dies and then we're by ourselves, or our partner leaves us or we leave them. There's just so many variations that happen as we go through life. And this podcast in particular is listened to by a huge cross section of people, from folks kind of in their 20s right through to people up in their 70s. So it's really about looking at sex through the lifespan, not just this whole kind of, buy a sex toy to produce a sensation that you've always had, but buy a sex toy to experience and experiment with what's possible in your body, and that actually happens with shifting your mindset, huh?
Yeah, it's all about a mindset. That's what we sell at Feelmore. It's all about mindset and creativity. In that, I was having some issues with control. Right, I'm gonna get personal.
All right.
I'm having some.
I gotcha. Come on, lay it on us.
And my partner is such the maverick, the independent person, and yet and still you want to control things. And so the only thing that I get to control is, can you clean up? And she doesn't clean up as well as I clean up. So then I get to bitch about it being cleaning to clean up. But what I'm really bitching about is not the cleanup. It's the, am I being heard? And I think the act of buying a sex toy is not that you're going to use it, because when you get home, you don't have to use anything. But it's also about walking into, setting your intentions to walk into a sex shop to talk about your vulnerabilities, meaning what the need is for your body, because people are going to ask you a little bit more questions to make sure you get exactly what you want. And then also paying, because now you're identifying yourself with your credit card. You know what I mean? You have to show your identification in certain respect, or someone asking, how can they address you? What's your pronouns? What you're wearing, daylight, if you're walking outside in daylight versus night, all of these things. It's not even about the sex toy. It's more than just sex. That's our mantra, has always been. Yeah. It's more than sex. Yeah. It's about the lead up act that allows you to feel confident before you even, before you take it out the store, for sure. Yeah. And then when you get home, there's a whole nother level you have to grapple with. Many people who take sex toys home to do anything with themselves or anyone else, there's also a level of shame that comes when you're by yourself. Yeah. Sometimes they say the idle mind is the devil's playground. If you're having issues with thoughts, sometimes being by yourself in your thought could actually lead you not to do a certain thing. And when you're alone, you still feel shame when no one's watching you. Yeah. You still feel that you're vulnerable, or can my neighbors hear this? That's a really big thing. Can my neighbors hear my vibrator? Can my neighbors, or if I tell my partner as a male body and they're female body to get a strap-on set, are they going to feel, how is my masculinity going to be defined? Yeah. We're dealing with some stuff that even in a sex shop, you can't help with. Yeah. If we could help with that, we probably wouldn't sell many more sex toys, right? But you still have a lot of people who are enjoying the sex toy and able to talk about it in a more boisterous level. I'm not saying scream. I'm just saying to stand straight up and down with the level of confidence as you talk to yourself about it, but also as you talk to other people about what they may be struggling with.
And that's such a practice to be able to stand up in the face of, whether it's just discomfort, shame, uncertainty, going back to the thing about changing, and people want to be able to control outcomes. And the truth, of course, in life is that we can't control most things. Random shit happens to people all the time.
Right. But to identify it quickly, because it can destroy that thing. I could mess up my relationship easily talking about cleaning, instead of saying, you know what, this is really about control. I need to go and tell her that after this podcast.
Right. So you've just realized that now, or?
Well, I mean, if you're really doing the reading of yourself, you really know. Yeah. You know that a lot of things in life, just like sex toys, someone saying that they're not ready to have sex, it could be medical. It could just be something that was triggered in them. It's never really that thing. Yeah. It's never really that thing. It's about, sometimes it's just something else that you have a structure is able to live in that vessel for that moment. Right. So my control, which is not structural, is actually living in cleaning up.
Right.
or you know what I mean? So your structure, your anxiety, as many people are looking to reclaim their bodies, to do things that they've never done. that reclamation actually lives in the structure of that sex toy.
Yeah, right. And that's the vessel through which you get to learn about the deeper story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Nenna, tell us about the history of Feelmore. I read that it started out of the back of your car.
Yeah. I was working for a Fortune 500 company. I was a network engineer at the time.
Wow.
And I was like, you know what? I really want to do. I woke up from a dream. I really love my dreams. If I don't dream a good dream, I'm really sad, because I think a lot of things in life you get to work out and relive in your dreams before you meet it in real life, which actually lessens the blow. And as I was in my dream said this. And so I went and bought DVDs, and my dream didn't tell me to go get, the stepmom orgy, you know what I mean? But I did go. It didn't tell me to go get, vibrator internal, or rapid. It just said play. It just said explore. And I listened to it. And in the dream, of course, I was selling sex toys. And I took that for be okay with healing someone else's pain while you heal your own. And this was a unique way for me to experience boundary setting on a daily basis, dealing with traumatic situations that have that have lived in my body for a long time. And so instead of my body informing me about the negative, let my body inform me about the positive. And so I took that opportunity to get out on the street and go to bars, go to salons, go to public transportation centers where they had a lot of people, and actually sell sex toys.
That's amazing.
Literally. Now, I didn't sell much.
Right.
But I sold sex toys.
Yeah.
And in selling sex toys.
And you just went in cold. You just were like, hey, I'm here to show you some stuff. Are you interested?
Yeah, basically just going into those places. I don't know what I was looking for. I think definitely sex is scary. Sex is scary when you have it for the first time. It's scary to talk to your parents about it when you're a kid. It's even scary to talk to your first friend about it. But it's scarier to be on parade, if you will. I thought about it in the form of prostitution, to be able to walk up and down the street, that takes a fucking level of guts.
Absolutely.
Sex workers definitely have my respect.
Yeah, same.
To walk up and down the street with no shame, parading themselves to make sure that they can make a living. Like, man, just the feeling of that. And I hadn't even sold anything. Like, I'm just afraid to walk to the bar, in front of the bar. Right. One, because there was a level of shame. As I said, I didn't sell much. I get a lot of tips. I didn't sell much. But as I look back on that moment in time, it was simply that I was able to see if I really wanted to do that.
Yeah, okay.
So, it was like really building the confidence, because here it is, people were laughing, they're laughing at you like, oh, that's cute, ha, 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 and, telling their friends and not buying from you. And then sometimes you hear the negative, and, how can you go through life wanting to change and hearing all of that good and bad feedback, where you get more good, but the bad, ooh, it cuts like a knife.
Yeah. Yeah.
The good lays on like a smooth cashmere. But when the knife cuts the cashmere, the exposure is just something so deep.
Yeah. And yet you persevered.
Yeah.
And then came Feelmore, which is what you have now.
Yeah. It was always knowing I wanted the sex shop, but it was also that I had to get there in knowing that life doesn't take this linear route to get where you're going, nor does it jump steps. Sometimes it does, but I didn't expect it to. And so selling sex toys on the street corner. From there, I went to like renting out theaters in the Bay Area in Oakland to show porn films, porn nights, to doing art shows, erotic art shows, and also begging to be on panels at events such as the AVN, which is in Las Vegas, which is the main porn awards. They would always have seminars, and I didn't know anybody, anything. I just begged to get on it. They were like, sure, we're going to put you on here. And as I did that, I got to tell you, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know the people who I was sitting next to. I knew that what I was saying had some level of fact, and also it hit for some people. You know what I mean? Like your information is never wrong. It just is not for the right audience.
Yeah.
So sitting there, just learning how to be on stage and learning all of these things. So by the time I got to the stage, I was asked to come, and I didn't have to beg to come. Hey, they come. We snuck that word in there.
We snuck that in there. You can sneak in whatever you like.
Yeah.
That's totally welcome.
Yeah.
And so now Feelmore is part of the Oakland community and really part of the erotic landscape of where, the sex communities have landed now in 2020. And what's your vision, for the next 10 years for your store in particular, and also broadly, what's your vision?
Well, for the store is definitely to, continue to open more. I would like to open one more in the Bay Area, and and that would be in an airport. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. I've been working on that for some time. So we'll keep working it until it happens. Everything doesn't happen when you want it to. It happens when it's supposed to. And but still okay with no's. Like, I love no's. I don't mind no's. When someone tells you no, I respect that. What I don't respect is ghosting.
Okay.
Like, just clear communication. Like, you told me no, thank you for even speaking to me. But that's for the store. And also I am working on a bar now. So looking to increase the experiential opportunity for the business and to diversify, because I think in 10 years, sex toys will be sold at corner stores. And I don't want to wait for that to happen.
Okay. Yeah. I think I certainly saw, I think this was a couple of years ago, Target were stepping into selling sex toys, which is unheard of in my imagination. But when Target starts selling sex toys, then we know that something's changed. And of course, they're riding on the back of the labor that you and I have been doing for the last 10, 15 years, and then all the folks before us. And
right.
It's just only how it is. So
Target has a small percentage based on what they already do. But also what we do is a larger percentage. And so it feels painful when someone is taking that small percentage and not having to go through the same restrictions or air that you've had to go through. But when I saw that, I was like, okay, well, I can use that as an opportunity to understand the business culture. But one of the things I also have as a goal for myself is to actually work for either Walmart or Target to actually be their buyer for sex toys, and also structure it to where it works. I was working on something with Whole Foods where we were going to sell lube out of Whole Foods. That the press release was so good that they were like, no, we're not going to do it. We're getting this backlash. And but what I saw was, in that particular situation, when you have sex shops, you have people who wake up to submit a resume for a place to sell sex toys, versus when you submit a resume for Target, you're looking to work with families and you're not looking to work with sex stores. There's a true difference. And so if we can continue to make the difference of, this is a reason why you should go to sex shops versus this is a reason why you go to a Target, I think we can have a better experience about that. But they're always going to beat us at a price. Their doors are, you could just start at the parking lot. They're always going to beat us at the price.
But what they don't offer is that personalized service that you offer, and the rich philosophy and the rich history.
We're training for that. You're small stores, sex shops are training for that. But when I go into Target or any Walmart, I'm always on the sex aisle. People are looking at us like, don't get that. I mean, like, don't get that.
I want to go to Target.
I was like, you should get it from us. It's like I'm peering around the aisle, like, what are you doing? Don't touch that.
Don't get that one. Get this one.
Don't get that. What kind of condom do you need? Like, I'm really like having my shirt on. Sometimes I wear my I sell sex toys t-shirt. And I'm like, yo, like, don't do that. What are you doing? Why are you buying that? You know, they're like, yo, like,
who are you?
seriously. I have fun with it.
Yeah. It oozes off of you. You're just so buoyant and you know, you're just so infectiously, delightfully happy. It just, you know, the passion oozes out of
it's fun. It's fun.
Out of your energy.
I get kicked out of laughing at myself. And
do you coach new businesses?
I don't coach. You know, in the beginning, here's the thing. We're in a new age right now. Mm-hmm. So when I got there, it was not thinking about the internet as it was thinking about being in physical space. Not many people are looking to open up in the physical space anymore. So all you have to do is flip over the switch, try. And sometimes people are upset when I say, they're like, oh, I need help starting. I want to get I was just like, well, here's my YouTube videos. Here's the book I wrote. Here's all of the podcasts that I've been on. Take something from it. Because for the people who, I can't get to Oprah, I can't get to Tony Robbins. I have to listen to everything that they talk about in order to consume it and shape it for myself, so that any inkling of a percentage of a chance that I get to meet them, that I'm ready for that conversation. I don't have to say, where do I start? You don't ask a person who has started with 20 years of experience where they start. You start by reading everything they've done for the last 20 years. So when you meet them, you're able to have a more informed conversation, because if somebody's been in business for 20 years and they're going for 20 more, they have very little time to mentor you on what you need. So the mentoring, people have to really kind of disengage from the thought that someone's not going to mentor them, because it's about time. We're moving into a 24-hour culture, and everybody is working every hour. You can watch someone's Instagram to see how they do it. You can watch this, you can watch that, you can see this. You have an opportunity to have access to a person without having access to a person, to know what their likes are, what food they eat, where they eat, what their kids look like, and possibly the locations that they live, because they're sharing them on social media. You've never gotten that before. So for people who say, how do I start? And I want you to mentor me. I'm like, no, you don't, because I'm going to charge you to start, you know, that intro fee. And I'm going to put it up there to a point where I'm going to know if you're serious up here. Because when I say $1,000 for a session in a month, you're going to say, okay, but you're going to get so much more. You're going to get so much more. And that's honestly what happens with franchises. That's why a lot of people will work with a franchise, because they're getting more access than what they would do to the information doing it by themselves. You know, people can contact us on all social media platforms: TikTok, Twitch, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, at Feelmore Adult. And we finally got it all consistent across all platforms. So I'm really happy about that. And also just on the website, which is critical right now. I know that we've been talking about the body, but we also need to talk about COVID in response to that, like what's happening. You're in New York, I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, Oakland to be specific. And how the website actually helps, businesses to stay around, and definitely shopping with us online.
Have a great day, Nenna. It was so lovely to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Nenna as much as I enjoyed creating it. I just find Nenna to be such an extraordinary being, and so full of light and love. Just wonderful. Make sure you check out Feelmore with the links in the show notes on the website, and also follow them at Feelmore Adult on all of the social medias. The reference that Nenna made to Audre Lorde, I'll also link to the show notes to make sure that you can read the paper that we were referring to, Uses of the Erotic. It's an older paper written by Audre Lorde about exactly what it sounds like, uses of the erotic. It's a really inspirational paper. If you're enjoying The Erotic Philosopher, please rate us on your favorite podcast platform, and remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find us on social media at The Erotic Philos. That's The Erotic PHILOS on Instagram and Twitter. If you have a quandary for the Erotic Philosophers, head on over to my website, cindydarnell.com. That's CYNDIDARNELL.com. Select the podcast tab for a link to submit your quandary and to catch up on all the episodes you may have missed. While you're there, look at my services, offering consultations for individuals, couples and groups, and my online pleasure school, where you'll find a suite of classes ready to go to help you stop struggling and start loving. Thanks for listening.